Welcome to another enchanting bedtime story on Sleepytime Chronicles. Tonight, we embark on a magical journey into the realm of Alloria, where we will meet King Eldrian and his brave companions. As you close your eyes and let your imagination wander, picture the sunlit gardens of the palace, the whispering winds, and the ancient mysteries that await our heroes. In the heart of this verdant kingdom, King Eldrian discovers that his shadow is missing, an omen of deep significance. With the weight of his kingdom on his shoulders, he sets out on a quest into the mysterious twilight realm, accompanied by loyal friends, Sir Alaric, Lady Marina, and the adventurous Finn. As we begin this tale, let the soothing words guide you into a state of relaxation. Imagine the gentle rustle of leaves, the soft murmurs of a magical forest, and the twilight sky painted in hues of blue and crimson. Allow each word to calm your mind and prepare you for a night of restful sleep. Now, let's journey together into the enchanting world of Shadowless King. May your dreams be filled with wonder and peace. Sweet dreams, dear listener. Chapter 1. The Vanishing Shadow. In the verdant, sunlit gardens of the Palace of Alloria, King Eldrian walked with the measured pace of a man who bore the weight of an entire kingdom. Yet, on this day, as the morning sun cast long shadows of the blooming trellises upon the mosaic floor, one shadow was conspicuously absent, the king's own. Eldrian stopped, his heart tightening. His gaze darted to his feet, where the silhouette should have mingled with the gray stones and green shoots. But there was nothing. His breath caught in his throat. He pivoted, turning his body to and fro, but still no shadow followed. A chill swept through him, more penetrating than the brisk morning air. In the realm of Alloria, the loss of one's shadow was an omen of the darkest kind. It signified the departure of one's soul. Legends whispered of the Twilight Realm, a mysterious dimension where the boundaries of light and dark dissolved into one another, and where, perhaps, his shadow now lingered. Determined to understand this curse, King Eldrian summoned his council of wise sages to the Star Chamber, a room adorned with celestial maps and ancient tomes. The sages, old men with faces as cragged as the maps they studied, listened gravely as Eldrian recounted the morning's unsettling events. "The legends speak of the Twilight Realm," murmured Sage Orin, his voice echoing slightly off the high, vaulted ceilings. "It is said that those who lose their shadow must seek it where light and darkness merge. Yet none who have ventured there have returned to tell the tale." Eldrian's jaw set. "Then I shall be the first to return. prepare for my journey. I will retrieve my shadow, and with it, my soul." The sages bowed, their robes whispering against the stone floor as they retreated to gather knowledge and equip the king for the quest. King Eldrian knew well that a journey fraught with unknown perils lay ahead. He would need companions, each with strengths to counter the myriad challenges they would undoubtedly face. His mind turned to Sir Alaric, the noble knight whose prowess in battle was surpassed only by his unwavering honor. He would also need Lady Marina, the widow whose heartache had been channeled into boundless charity and compassion for her people. And finally, he would need Finn, the young, courageous explorer, whose thirst for adventure had led him to chart the unexplored corners of their world. As the sun reached its zenith, casting a brilliant, unobstructed light over the kingdom, Eldrian dispatched his swiftest messengers to the corners of Alloria. Invitations were sent, sealed with a royal crest, a golden sun eclipsed by a dark, shadowless void. The responses were swift. Within days, Sir Alaric, Lady Marina, and Finn stood before him in the great hall, each pledging their loyalty and their courage to the daunting task ahead. "We are ready, Your Majesty," declared Sir Alaric, his voice resonant and sure. "Lead us into the twilight, and we shall follow." Lady Marina nodded, her expression serene yet resolute. "My heart grieves for our kingdom and for your plight, my king. I will do all within my power to aid our quest." And Finn, with the eager gleam of youth in his eyes, simply stated, "The unknown calls, and I must answer." With his companions chosen and the preparations underway, King Eldrian felt the weight of his shadowless state lessen slightly. Yet, the gravity of their journey loomed large as the twilight hour approached, and with it, the threshold to a realm unknown and fearsome. Thus, as the first stars blinked into the evening sky, King Eldrian and his chosen companions crossed the ancient, arched stone bridge that marked the beginning of their journey into the twilight realm. Beneath their feet, the stones shimmered with a strange, ethereal light, beckoning them forward into a world where the very fabric of reality seemed to shift and whisper with the shadows of what was and what might yet be. Chapter 2: Gathering of Companions. The ancient bridge that spanned the river vale marked the boundary between the known and the unknown. As the last light of day mingled with the creeping twilight, King Eldrian and his companions paused at the brink of the twilight realm. The air grew cooler, tinged with a palpable sense of the eerie and the arcane. Behind them lay the familiar lands of Alloria. Ahead, a world shrouded in half-light and mystery. Sir Alaric adjusted the weight of his broadsword, his armor glinting dully in the fading light. His stern face betrayed no fear, only a resolute determination to protect his king and their mission. Lady Marina, cloaked in garments that blended the richness of courtly life with the practicality needed for their journey, clasped her hands tightly. Her eyes, deep pools of resolve, swept over the shadowy path ahead. Finn, laden with maps and compasses, bore the eager expression of a boy on the cusp of adventure. His youthful enthusiasm undimmed by the dangers that lay ahead. King Eldrian looked to each of them, his heart bolstered by their presence. "We stand at the verge of shadows," he began, his voice steady despite the uncertainty that tugged at his soul. "This realm we enter is uncharted by any who have returned, but I have faith in each of you, as I hope you have in me." Sir Alaric nodded solemnly. "We shall guard your bag as if it were our own, my king." Lady Marina's voice was soft but firm. "And heal your spirit, for the trials to come may weigh heavily upon it." Finn simply grinned, adjusting his leather pack. "And I'll find us a way, through whatever comes." With their vows spoken, the group stepped forward, crossing into the twilight realm. The transition was subtle, yet disorienting. The air shimmered slightly, as if they were looking through a veil of water, and the light dimmed, enveloping them in a perpetual dusk. Their first challenge came sooner than expected. The path, clear at the outset, soon forked into 3 shadowy trails. Each path bore no sign or marker, and the light from their torches seemed swallowed by the darkness. Finn unrolled a map, tracing lines that vanished as they neared the realm's interior. "The maps hold no sway here," he murmured, frustration edging his voice. "It seems our choices are not to be guided by knowledge, but by instinct," Sir Alaric observed, his gaze assessing each path. Lady Marina stepped forward, reaching into a small pouch at her belt. She withdrew a handful of fine, silver dust, murmuring a quiet prayer as she scattered it into the air. The particles glittered briefly before drifting toward the leftmost path. "A sign, as good as any," she said, her voice imbued with a calm certainty. Choosing to trust in Marina's guidance, they followed the silver trail. The path wound through a dense forest where the trees stood so close that their twisted branches blotted out the sky. Whispers filled the air, voices of an indistinct chorus that seemed both to beckon and warn. The shadows grew deeper, the light more elusive, and the path beneath their feet more treacherous. As they ventured deeper, A soft luminescence began to glow from within the trees themselves. The light pulsed gently, in rhythm with some unseen heartbeat of the forest. Eldrian felt a chill trace his spine as he realized the light did not illuminate but seemed to watch, as if the forest itself was alive and aware of their trespass. Sir Alaric moved to the fore, his sword drawn to ward off unseen threats. Lady Marina kept close to the king, her own senses attuned to the spiritual disturbances of this eerie domain. Finn, undeterred by the supernatural, scouted ahead, his curiosity driving him to uncover the secrets held by the Whispering Woods. Their journey through the Forest of Whispers tested their resolve, each step forward a defiance against the enveloping shadows. Yet, with each other's strength to lean upon, they moved deeper into the twilight, where the true nature of their quest and the realm itself would soon reveal more of its enigmatic and perilous truths. Chapter 3: The Threshold of Twilight. The companions continued their journey, the Forest of Whispers slowly yielding to a broader landscape that breathed with the stillness of a world held between night and day. As they emerged from the dense thicket, the ground beneath their feet changed from the soft earth of the woodland to a fine, silvery sand that sparkled underfoot, reflecting a sky painted in hues of deep twilight blues and the occasional streak of crimson, as if the horizon itself bled from its eternal wound between light and dark. King Eldrian, leading his companions, found his gaze drawn upward. The stars here were unlike those seen in Alloria. They shimmered with colors that had no names, their arrangements foreign and mesmerizing. "We have truly crossed into the twilight realm," he murmured, his voice carrying a mix of awe and unease. Sir Alaric, ever the sentinel, kept his eyes fixed on the shifting shadows among the dunes. "This place, it is beautiful but unnerving. It feels as though the very light is alive and watching us." Lady Marina nodded in agreement, her senses attuned to the spiritual currents of this liminal space. "The energies here are complex," she said, touching a pendant at her throat, a talisman meant to guard against spiritual maladies. "We are walking a path bordered by both realms of existence, neither fully in light nor completely engulfed by darkness." Finn, though less versed in the subtleties of arcane forces, felt an explorer's thrill pulse through him. He scouted ahead, climbing a small dune to better see their path. From his higher vantage, he spotted something unusual. A structure in the distance, silhouetted against the multi-hued sky. "Look there," he called out, pointing. The group joined him atop the dune, and what they saw took their breath away. A city lay before them, but unlike any they had seen before. Buildings of glass and mirror rose in elegant, impossible architectures, reflecting the twilight sky so perfectly that the city seemed to merge with the cosmos itself. This must be the city of mirrors, Eldrian concluded, recalling tales of a city that appeared only under the cloak of dusk, a place where truth and illusion danced indistinguishably. We must tread carefully. In such a place, our eyes can easily deceive us. As they approached, the city's gates, massive doors of polished obsidian, swung open silently, inviting or perhaps daring them to enter. The streets were deserted, the silence punctuated only by the soft echo of their own footsteps as they ventured deeper into the urban maze. Each surface mirrored their likenesses back at them, but with subtle, disquieting differences. Sir Alaric's reflection showed him aged and weary. Lady Marina's bore a smile tinged with sorrow. Finn's showed him older, his youthful features hardened by unseen trials. And Eldrian's, his was the most disturbing, for his mirrored self was shadowed, a dark silhouette with glowing eyes. It is showing us not what is, but what might be, Lady Marina whispered, a note of caution in her voice. Or perhaps what we fear to become. Their journey through the city of mirrors tested their perceptions and their resolve. Each reflection seemed a riddle, a clue to their deeper fears and desires, revealing the fractures within their own souls. It was here, amid the labyrinthine alleys and reflective facades, that they encountered their first true test. A creature of smoke and mirrors blocked their path, its form ever-changing, a swirling mass of fears pulled from their own minds. To pass, you must accept what you see. Embrace the reflection offered, the creature intoned, its voice, a chorus of their own voices, echoed back at them. Each took a step forward, confronting the versions of themselves that twisted before them. With each acknowledgement, the creature dimmed, its form becoming less defined, until it faded completely, leaving only the path ahead clear. They exited the city feeling changed, more aware of their inner selves and the masks they wore. The experience bonded them closer, each now carrying not only their own reflections, but also those of their companions within their hearts. As they left the mirroring city behind, the twilight deepened, whispering of the darker trials yet to come. Chapter 4: The Forest of Whispers. After leaving the reflective uncertainties of the city of mirrors behind, King Eldrian and his companions ventured onward, their path leading them to the threshold of a dense and sprawling forest. Its trees stood tall and stoic, their trunks gnarled and twisted as if bearing the weight of untold secrets. A foreboding air hung about the forest, filled with soft murmurs that seemed to call out from the shadowy depths. The Forest of Whispers, as the old legends named it, was said to be a living archive of the realm's memories and emotions. Every sigh, every withheld secret, every repressed desire whispered through the leaves, resonating with those who dared walk its paths. As they entered the forest, the atmosphere thickened. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices that seemed both alien and intimately familiar. Finn, gripping his compass, found its needle spinning wildly, unresponsive to the earthly directions it once obeyed. Sir Alaric drew his sword, the sound of the metal a comforting slice through the eerie murmurs. "Voices of the past," he muttered. "We must not listen too closely." Lady Marina closed her eyes briefly, murmuring a protective charm under her breath, which glowed faintly around her before dissipating into the air, her way of shielding their spirits from the invasive whispers. King Eldrian, feeling the weight of his crown more than ever, led with a quiet resolve. The whispers tugged at the edges of his mind, voices pleading for attention, offering tempting truths and seductive lies. He heard a voice, chillingly similar to his own, lamenting a decision long past, a choice that led to a friend's downfall. The path through the forest was unclear, obscured by overgrown roots and thick underbrush. As they ventured deeper, a dense fog rolled in, enveloping them in a damp, gray veil. Visibility waned, and the world narrowed to just the path under their feet and the ever-present voices. Amidst the disorienting chorus, Lady Marina paused, her head tilted as if discerning a distant cry. "Do you hear that?" she asked, her voice a thread in the dense tapestry of sound. "A child's weeping." Finn listened, his youthful face drawn in a frown. Among the myriad whispers, he too discerned the soft, sorrowful sobbing of a child. Moved by instinct, he stepped off the path, following the sound through the thickets. "Wait," Sir Alaric called out, concern sharpening his voice. But Finn, driven by a courageous empathy, pushed forward, his figure soon swallowed by the fog. Eldrian and Marina exchanged a glance, a silent agreement passing between them. They followed, with Sir Alaric reluctantly leading, his sword ready for unseen dangers. The child's weeping grew louder as they navigated through the mist, until they found its source. A small, spectral figure sitting at the base of an ancient oak, its features blurry and shifting, drenched in moonlight that seemed to seep through the fog. The child looked up, its eyes hollow and endless, a mirror to their deepest regrets. "Help me," it whispered, voice echoing the very sorrows each of them carried. "It's the forest's trap," Sir Alaric warned, his voice low. "These spirits use our fears, our regrets against us." Eldrian knelt before the child, his heart heavy. "What do you need from us?" he asked, his tone gentle. "Forgiveness," the child murmured, its voice a breeze that stirred the fallen leaves. Understanding dawned on Eldrian. This was not just a spirit. It was a manifestation of their own unspoken guilts. Each of them, in turn, spoke of forgiveness, confessing their past misdeeds and offering peace to the shadows they carried within themselves. With each word of pardon, the child's form became less distinct, its sorrowful expression softening. Finally, with a sigh that rustled through the trees like a wind of relief, it faded completely, leaving behind a calm silence in the forest. The fog lifted slowly, revealing the path once more. They continued their journey, the forest's whispers now just a soft murmur in the background, a reminder of the secrets they had confronted and the forgiveness they had granted themselves and each other. Chapter 5: The River of Reflections. Emerging from the enigmatic silence of the Forest of Whispers, King Eldrian and his companions found themselves before the expanse of a broad, tranquil river. Its waters flowed gently, surface shimmering with the light of a sun that seemed both distant and intimately close in the ethereal landscape of the Twilight Realm. This was the River of Reflections, known in the legends as a mirror to the soul, revealing truths hidden deep within oneself. As they approached the silvery banks, each was taken aback by the clarity of the water. It reflected not just their physical forms, but seemed to peer into their essence, casting back images imbued with deeper meanings and hidden fears. Finn, ever the bold and curious, was the first to approach the water's edge. Peering into the depth, he saw not the young explorer he expected, but an older version of himself, weathered and wise, his eyes holding stories of countless adventures. The reflection smiled at him, and he felt a warmth spread through him, an affirmation of the path he had chosen in life, filled with exploration and discovery. Lady Marina approached hesitantly, her heart heavy with the memories of her lost family. As she looked into the water, she saw herself surrounded by a light, her late husband and children appearing beside her, their expressions peaceful. They spoke no words, but their presence offered comfort, reminding her of the love that had once filled her life and would continue to guide her. Tears welled in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of gratitude and healing. Sir Alaric, with a warrior's caution, gazed into the river and saw himself laying down his sword, surrounded by people in a rebuilt village that thrived in peace. His reflection showed a future where he was no longer needed as a knight, but revered as a protector who had achieved his ultimate duty, securing a lasting peace. This vision bolstered his resolve, affirming that his battles were not in vain and that hope lay beyond conflict. Lastly, King Eldrian stepped forward, his heart pounding with the dread of what he might encounter. The water rippled as he looked into it, and his reflection revealed a figure shrouded in darkness at first. But as he continued to watch, the shadowy figure stepped into the light, his features softening, revealing a wise and just ruler whose reign brought prosperity and harmony to his kingdom. His shadow was with him, merged in balance with his form, symbolizing his reclaimed soul and the unity of his inner and outer selves. Each companion, touched by their visions, shared their experiences with one another. The river had not only reflected their deepest selves, but it also revealed the potential for what they could become. The journey thus far had uncovered truths and healed old wounds, knitting them closer together as they prepared to face whatever lay ahead. As they left the river's edge, the path before them now seemed a little less daunting. The river of reflections had offered them not just a glimpse of themselves, but had bestowed a deeper understanding and acceptance of their paths and purposes. Renewed by their experiences at the river, they continued their journey, the landscape gradually shifting as they approached the outskirts of a vast, looming city. The city of mirrors had been a test of perception. Now they would enter the labyrinth of shadows, where reality itself would bend, and every turn would challenge their resolve and unity. Chapter 6: The City of Mirrors. The travelers soon found themselves at the gates of the City of Mirrors. It was a place both magnificent and daunting, with towers and spires crafted from glass that reflected the twilight sky in 1,000 different shades. The city seemed to pulse with a life of its own, each reflection in its mirrored walls flickering like the beat of a heart. King Eldrian led the way, his steps resolute yet cautious. As they entered through the towering gates, their images were thrown back at them, distorted and multiplied until they seemed to walk among a crowd of their own echoes. Sir Alaric looked around with a wary eye, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. Every reflection could be an illusion, he said, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the eerie quiet of the city. Lady Marina clutched her talisman, whispering a prayer for protection against deceit. The city's beauty was undeniable, but its allure carried an undertone of danger. As they ventured deeper, the reflections began to show not what was, but what could be, or perhaps what could never be. Dreams mingled with nightmares in the glass. Visions of desires fulfilled alongside the deepest fears of the soul. Finn, with his curious and fearless heart, ran his hand along the cool surface of a mirror. Instead of his own youthful face, he saw an aged version of himself, lined with the wisdom and scars of many journeys. The sight made him pause, a mix of dread and wonder in his eyes. What does it mean when a mirror shows us not as we are, but as we might be? He pondered aloud. It means, King Eldrian replied, his gaze fixed on a mirror, showing him standing firm with the restored shadow at his side, that this city tests our aspirations and our insecurities. We must not be seduced by what we see, for these are but shadows of possibility, not certainties. As they moved through the labyrinthine alleys of the city, each turn and each reflected surface seemed to challenge their sense of reality. Lady Marina saw herself surrounded by a thriving family, her loneliness countered by the warmth of love and laughter. Yet she knew it was a life not chosen, a path diverged by fate. Sir Alaric faced mirrors that alternated between scenes of war and peace. His warrior spirit conflicted between the thrill of battle and the tranquility of a life without conflict. Each reflection seemed to ask him what he truly desired, what kind of man he wished to be. They came upon a central plaza where the mirrors formed a circle around a single large pool of still water. Here, the reflections showed not individual desires or fears, but a collective vision. It was their group, united and strong, overcoming unknown challenges, their faces marked by the bonds of shared trials and triumphs. This is what the city offers, King Eldrian concluded, his voice steady and sure. A mirror to our souls, yes, but also to our potential as a united force. We must hold on to this vision, for it is together that we will find my shadow and return it to where it belongs. Heartened by this revelation, they left the city of mirrors with a renewed sense of purpose. The reflections had shown them not just who they were, but who they could be. With these visions imprinted in their minds, they prepared to enter the next phase of their journey, the Labyrinth of Shadows, a place rumored to twist and turn as much in reality as in the mind. Chapter 7, Labyrinth of Shadows. After leaving the reflective uncertainties of the city of mirrors, King Eldrian and his companions approached the borders of a foreboding terrain that stretched under a canopy of perpetual gloom. The labyrinth of shadows lay before them, its entrance marked by towering archways carved from dark stone, twisted and gnarled like the roots of ancient trees. The air grew colder as they passed beneath the archway, the light dimming until all that illuminated their path were the flickering torches they carried. The walls of the labyrinth rose high, encasing them in a maze of endless twists and turns that seemed to fold back upon themselves. Sir Alaric led the way, his sword drawn, eyes narrowed in concentration. The knight's instincts were on high alert, the labyrinth challenging not only his direction, but his resolve, as shadows seemed to shift and move with a life of their own. Finn, map in hand, attempted to chart their course, but the labyrinth defied all sense of logic and space. Passages appeared and disappeared, the layout changing with each turn they took. It's as if the maze itself is alive, reshaping with our every decision, he muttered in frustration. Lady Marina, sensing the oppressive energy of the place, clasped her talisman tightly, whispering incantations to ward off the dark energies. Her voice was a soft beacon in the oppressive darkness, providing a small comfort to her companions. King Eldrian felt the weight of their quest pressing upon him more with each step. The labyrinth seemed to delve not just into the heart of the twilight realm, but into the depths of their souls, testing their courage, their fears, and their resolve. As they ventured deeper, a dense fog began to settle around them, whispers echoing off the stone walls. These were not the whispers of the forest. They were darker, filled with malice and sorrow. Eldrian paused, closing his eyes to focus. "We must not let fear guide us," he said, his voice firm, cutting through the murmur of the labyrinth. The challenge of the labyrinth was not merely physical, but psychological. Each turn confronted them with visions of their past failures and fears. Sir Alaric faced specters of battles lost and comrades fallen. Finn encountered illusions of himself, old and alone, his life's adventures leading to naught but regret. Lady Marina saw visions of her family, their faces accusing her of living while they had perished. Each vision sought to break their spirit, but with each step, they supported one another, refusing to succumb to the despair the labyrinth aimed to instill. Lady Marina's chants grew stronger, her light weaving around them like a shield. Sir Alaric's resolve hardened, his blade slicing through shadows that grew too close. Finn, with youthful defiance, challenged each illusion with a heart full of hope and determination. Together, they reached the heart of the labyrinth. Here, the paths converged upon a central chamber, where a single beam of light pierced the darkness from an opening high above. Within this light stood a pedestal, and atop it, a mirror, not like those in the city, but clear and unyielding. King Eldrian approached the mirror, his companions by his side. The mirror did not reflect his image, but showed a single, shadowy figure, the shadowless king, his own self, looking back at him with eyes full of understanding and sorrow. "It is not the labyrinth that holds your shadow captive," the shadowless king spoke, his voice echoing around the chamber. "It is yourself. You must accept all parts of your being, the light and the dark." With a deep, steadying breath, Eldrian reached out, his hand pressing against the cool surface of the mirror. As his fingers touched the glass, it rippled like water, and the figure stepped forward, merging with him, shadow reintegrating with substance. As the shadow returned, the labyrinth around them seemed to sigh, its walls receding, the oppressive air lifting. They had faced their darkest fears and emerged whole. With Eldrian's shadow restored, the path out of the labyrinth appeared clear and unobstructed. They walked back into the light, changed, not just by the journey, but by the knowledge that the greatest challenges often lay within. Chapter 8, Summit of Echoes. The journey from the labyrinth of shadows led King Eldrian and his companions upward, toward a realm where the air grew thin and the boundary between light and darkness blurred even further. The Summit of Echoes, as it was called, was said to reside at the very heart of the twilight realm, where the fabric of reality was at its most fragile. The path was steep and fraught with peril. Bare rocks and sharp crags lined the winding trail, and with every step, a sense of unease lingered, as if the very mountain knew of their presence and whispered secrets back into the wind. Sir Alaric, his armor clinking with each step, kept a vigilant watch. The trials of the labyrinth had honed his senses, making him all the more aware of the subtle shifts in the shadows that played along the rocky path. Lady Marina, her energy somewhat drained from the constant spiritual warding, leaned occasionally on Finn's offered arm. The young explorer, though physically weary, showed a resilience that inspired his companions. His eyes, always searching, reflected a spark of determination that belied his fatigue. As they ascended, the sky above took on a swirling pattern of twilight hues. Purples, blues, and deep magentas melded together, casting an otherworldly glow over the landscape. The Summit of Echoes was living up to its name, with every echo of their voices coming back slightly altered, as if the mountain itself was attempting to communicate in a forgotten dialect. King Eldrian felt the tug of his newly reclaimed shadow, a constant presence that now felt both comforting and ominous. The closer they got to the summit, the more he felt the shadows within him stirring, as if awakened by the proximity to this place of power. Upon reaching the summit, they found themselves facing a vast plateau, shrouded in a mist that seemed to glow with an inner light. Standing there, the king felt the air pulsate with energy, a silent hum that resonated with the core of his being. "This is the place," Eldrian announced, his voice carrying a mix of awe and apprehension. "The summit of echoes, where the veil between light and dark is thinnest." They moved cautiously across the plateau, the mist parting around them like a curtain unveiling a stage. In the center of this vast expanse stood an ancient altar made of a stone that absorbed light, giving it a depth that seemed immeasurable. Eldrian approached the altar, his companions close behind. As they did, the wind rose, carrying with it voices from the past. Whispers of old kings and queens of Alloria, echoes of promises made and broken, of battles won and lost. Each voice seemed to implore Eldrian to heed the lessons of history. The summit does not just challenge our resolve. It challenges our very understanding of power, Eldrian realized aloud. His hands hovered over the altar, feeling the pulse of the land. The moment he touched the stone, a surge of energy coursed through them all. Visions flashed before their eyes, scenes of past rulers making their vows, their successes and failures, the rise and fall of kingdoms. The weight of their own choices became palpable, a tangible force that pressed upon their shoulders. The power to shape a kingdom comes with the burden of its past, Lady Marina whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Sir Alaric nodded, his expression grim but accepting. Finn looked between his older companions, a resolve forming within him. "And the future," he added, "is ours to forge from these lessons." With a collective nod, they stepped back from the altar, the wind dying down as if in approval. They had faced the echoes of the past and acknowledged the weight they carried forward. As they descended from the summit, the twilight seemed less menacing, the shadows less daunting. They were returning not just as bearers of their own legacies, but as shapers of what was to come. Chapter 9. The Sacrifice. Descending from the summit of echoes, the clarity and resolve gained atop the peak seemed to solidify with each step they took. However, King Eldrian and his companions were soon to learn that some trials could not be overcome by resolve alone. As they continued their journey, the terrain shifted dramatically, leading them into a stark valley where the shadows grew longer and more sentient. The air in the valley was thick with an oppressive gloom that seemed to weigh on their spirits. Here, the twilight was not just a time of day, but a tangible presence that wrapped around them, a cloak woven from the very essence of dusk. It was in this place that they encountered the guardian of shadows, a creature born from the realm's darkest corner. The guardian, a towering figure cloaked in swirling darkness, stood in their path, its eyes burning like coals. To leave this realm with what you have taken, a price must be paid, it boomed, its voice echoing against the valley walls. King Eldrian stepped forward, his own shadow now fully integrated, but appearing restless, as if aware of the gravity of this encounter. "What is the price?" he asked, his voice steady despite the dread that gripped his heart. "The sacrifice of one," the guardian replied, its gaze sweeping over each of them. "One must remain to keep the balance, for nothing leaves the twilight realm without something left in exchange." The words struck them with the force of a gale. The companions exchanged looks of disbelief and despair, the weight of the demand anchoring them to the spot. Sir Alaric, ever the protector, was the first to recover. "Then I shall stay," he declared, his tone resolute. "My life has been one of duty and sacrifice. Let it end here for my king and my friends." Lady Marina stepped forward, tears glistening in her eyes. "No, Alaric, your duty is not yet done," she implored. "Let me stay. I have lost much, and my heart lies more with those who have passed than with the living. Let me find peace here in the twilight between worlds." Finn looked from one to the other, his young face set in a grim line. "And what of the future?" he asked, his voice cracking with emotion. "Who will guide the next generations, if not you, Alaric? And who will remember the depth of compassion, if not for you, Marina?" King Eldrian remained silent, torn by the sacrifice his friends were willing to make. His heart ached at the thought of leaving any of them behind, yet the guardian's demand was clear. As the debate raged, a quiet resolve settled over Eldrian. Stepping forward, he addressed the guardian. "The shadow was mine, and so too should be the sacrifice. I am the king, and the welfare of Alloria and its people are my responsibility. I will stay." Outcries of protest met his declaration, but Eldrian raised a hand for silence. A king must not only lead, but also know when to give of himself for the greater good. "This is my time." The guardian observed the scene with an unreadable expression, then slowly nodded. "So be it. The sacrifice is accepted." Turning to his friends, Eldrian embraced each in turn, imparting final words of guidance and gratitude. To Finn, he said, "Keep your wonder, and let it guide Alloria to a future bright with possibility." To Marina, "Let your compassion continue to heal the hearts of our people." and to Alaric, protect them as you have protected me, with all the honor and courage you possess." With heavy hearts, they bid farewell to their king, leaving him at the valley's center as they made their way back through the twilight realm, carrying with them the legacy of his rule and the memory of his sacrifice. King Eldrian watched them go, a serene acceptance settling over him as the shadows gathered, not to consume, but to embrace him as one of their own. In the Valley of Shadows, a king's heart found its final peace, ensuring the balance of light and dark remained steady for the realm he loved. Chapter 10: The Return of the Shadow. The companions trekked back through the twilight realm, each step weighed down by the absence of King Eldrian. His sacrifice hung heavily in the air, a constant reminder of the price paid for the balance between the realms of light and dark. Sir Alaric, Lady Marina, and Finn moved with a solemn determination, committed to fulfilling the roles Eldrian had entrusted to them. As they neared the boundary of the Twilight Realm, where the world of Alloria began to bleed through the twilight mists, the landscape around them gradually brightened. The oppressive weight of the shadows lessened, and in its place, a subtle warmth began to seep through the air, as if the realm itself was acknowledging their return and the sacrifice that had made it possible. Finn, who had always possessed a spirit inclined towards discovery, took the lead. His gaze was fixed ahead, his mind occupied with thoughts of how to relay the story of their journey and the king's heroic end. He pondered on Eldrian's last charge to him, to keep wonder alive and guide Alloria towards a promising future. Lady Marina, walking beside Sir Alaric, shared memories of the king, her words woven with both sorrow and a deep respect. "He saw in us strengths we had not seen in ourselves," she said softly. "We must continue to nurture these gifts, not just in ourselves, but in all our people." Sir Alaric nodded, his expression resolute. "We carry not only his memory, but his legacy. It's our duty to ensure his sacrifice is honored through acts of courage and leadership. We must protect Alloria as fiercely in peace as he did in life." As they stepped through the threshold and back into the world of light, they were met by the elders of Alloria, who had gathered at the border, sensing the return of their champions. The air was filled with a bittersweet joy as they welcomed back the heroes. However, the celebration was tempered by the visible absence of their king. Sir Alaric stepped forward, his voice carrying both strength and grief as he recounted their journey, the trials they faced, and the ultimate sacrifice made by King Eldrian. The people of Alloria listened, their hearts filled with a mix of pride and sorrow, tears were shed for their lost king, but also tears of gratitude for the peace his sacrifice had secured. The elders, wise and aged, declared that the day of their return would be remembered not as a day of mourning, but as one of reverence, celebrating the courage and selflessness that had preserved their realm. In the days that followed, Sir Alaric, Lady Marina, and Finn took up their new roles within the kingdom. Alaric assumed command of the King's Guard, dedicating himself to maintaining peace and order. Marina expanded her charitable works, her grief fueling her resolve to bring solace and support to those in need. Finn, with his maps and tales, became a teacher, inspiring the young minds of Alloria with stories of bravery and exploration. The kingdom thrived under their guidance, a testament to the enduring spirit of King Eldrian. Though his physical presence was gone, his influence permeated through every act of kindness, every decision for peace, and every adventure embarked upon. As the first anniversary of Eldrian's sacrifice approached, a statue was unveiled in the heart of the capital. It depicted the king with his hand extended, a symbol of his final act of giving. Beneath it, an inscription read, "In shadows and light, he guides us still." Alloria had not only regained its shadow, but had found a new way forward, bathed in the light of unity and the wisdom of sacrifice. And though the realm of twilight remained a distant memory, it was a memory that continued to teach and inspire as long as the story was told. Chapter 11: Enlightened Ruler. As the seasons turned, marking a year since King Eldrian's noble sacrifice, the kingdom of Alloria found itself in a period of profound peace and introspection. Sir Alaric, Lady Marina, and Finn, each in their respective roles, fostered a sense of unity and strength that permeated through the realm, embodying the virtues Eldrian had held dear. Yet, the throne remained vacant, a silent testament to Eldrian's absence. The elders of Alloria, recognizing the need for a leader to officially bear the mantle of rule, convened a council to discuss the future of the kingdom. The council agreed that while no one could replace Eldrian, someone must rise to guide Alloria with the wisdom gained from the recent trials. The decision was made with a heavy heart, and the council chose to crown Finn as the new king. His youth, tempered by the adventures and insights from the journey into the Twilight realm, coupled with his innate curiosity and desire to explore the unknown, made him a fitting successor to carry on Eldrian's legacy. Finn, initially taken aback by the council's decision, felt the weight of the crown as he had never felt any burden before. However, inspired by Eldrian's teachings and the support of his fellow companions, he accepted the role with a humble heart and a committed spirit. His coronation was a blend of solemnity and celebration, held in the grand courtyard of the palace. The people of Alloria, from the humblest farmers to the highest nobles, gathered to witness the rise of their new king. Sir Alaric stood by his side as the protector of the realm, and Lady Marina blessed the ceremony with words of peace and charity. King Finn spoke to his people, not from a place of distant royalty, but as one of their own who had walked through darkness to bring light. We have all been shaped by the shadows and the light, he declared. And like the twilight, we must learn to live in balance, embracing the wisdom that each brings. Under King Finn's rule, Alloria embraced a new era of exploration and learning. The boundaries of the kingdom expanded, not through conquest, but through voyages of discovery, charting new lands and forming alliances with distant peoples. Finn's thirst for knowledge transformed the kingdom into a center of learning and culture, attracting scholars, artists, and philosophers. Lady Marina led the kingdom's charitable endeavors, ensuring that the prosperity the realm enjoyed was shared among all its citizens. Her compassion became the cornerstone of Finn's administration, reminding everyone that a kingdom's greatness was measured not by its wealth or power, but by the well-being of its least fortunate. Sir Alaric, ever steadfast, trained the knights of Alloria not just in the arts of war, but in the arts of peace. His knights became guardians of the realm's new ideals, protectors of the paths of knowledge and exploration that Finn championed. As the years passed, King Finn often visited the statue of Eldrian in the palace gardens, reflecting on the lessons he had learned from the king who had walked into shadow to save his kingdom. Under the gaze of Eldrian's likeness, Finn felt a connection across the realms, a silent counsel that guided his decisions and reinforced his resolve to lead with courage and wisdom. Alloria prospered under King Finn, a beacon of light in a world that often dwelled too long in shadows. His rule was marked not by his power, but by his ability to inspire his people to embrace their own power, their own light and shadow, in their quest for a balanced and enlightened life. Chapter 12, Legacy of Twilight. Years flowed like the gentle streams of Alloria, and under King Finn's reign, the kingdom flourished as a sanctuary of wisdom and a crossroads of diverse cultures. His rule, deeply influenced by his experiences in the Twilight Realm and the legacy of King Eldrian, was a testament to the balance between exploration and tradition, innovation and heritage. In the bustling markets of the capital, merchants from distant lands shared their wares and stories, while scholars debated in the cool shade of the academies, their discussions enriched by the collective knowledge of a world much larger than Alloria alone. Artists captured the beauty of the realm in canvas and song, their works a celebration of the peace and prosperity that Finn's leadership had cultivated. Sir Alaric, now the elder statesman of the kingdom, served as the king's hand, his wisdom in both war and peace vital to the council. His tales of the Twilight Realm and the sacrifice of King Eldrian were now part of the nightly training, lessons in courage and the importance of duty. Lady Marina, honored as the Mother of Charities, had founded numerous hospices and schools throughout the kingdom, ensuring that Eldrian's vision of a compassionate realm lived on. Her presence in the court reminded all of the depth of human kindness and the strength that comes from empathy and care. As the anniversary of King Eldrian's sacrifice approached, King Finn announced a festival to honor the memory of the Shadowless king, inviting not just his subjects, but envoys and dignitaries from the neighboring kingdoms. The festival would be a celebration of light and shadow, a remembrance of the journey into the Twilight Realm that had shaped their very world. On the eve of the festival, the palace grounds were transformed. Lanterns hung from silken threads cast soft glows against the night sky, each light a tribute to the shadow that had once been lost and the light that had been gained. Performers dressed as figures from the lore of the Twilight Realm danced through the crowds, their movements a story told in silence and song. King Finn, dressed in a simple robe of midnight blue, a nod to the twilight that had once tested and changed him, addressed his people from the palace balcony. His speech wove the past with the present, the lessons of the Twilight Realm with the daily lives of his people. Tonight, we celebrate not just a king who is lost, but a kingdom forever found in the balance between light and dark, Finn proclaimed. Let us remember that each of us carries within us the power to face our own shadows, to learn from them, and to emerge enlightened by their truths. The festival culminated in a solemn ceremony at the statue of Eldrian, where Finn laid a wreath of silver and gold, the colors merging as the twilight once had in the realm beyond. The people of Alloria, gathered in a vast circle around their king, joined in a moment of silence, a shared breath between past and future. As the ceremony ended, the sky above burst into color with fireworks, each explosion a mimicry of the stars under which the Twilight Realm lay hidden from the mortal eye. The people cheered, their voices a chorus of joy and remembrance. In the years that followed, the legacy of Twilight became a core philosophy of Alloria, a guide for other realms and a beacon for those seeking wisdom in the balance of light and shadow. King Finn continued to lead with the insight of one who had seen beyond the veil, his reign a bridge between worlds, his legacy a story of light found in the heart of shadows.